The Great Heavenly War was an attempt by the fallen angels to take over heaven. However, the attempt failed and only led to several consequences: being cast into hell, thrown into the earth, and subsequently perishing in the flood while on earth, and lastly, being eternally locked up in hell. All these consequences were put upon them by God. While some of them are seen in the Bible, some accounts are from deuterocanonical books and apocrypha. Some theologians believe that fallen angels would be rehabilitated in the afterworld. After the Great Heaven War, the rebellion of angels, God prepared hell for the devil and his angels. This was described in Matthew 25 verse 41, where Jesus clearly explains that some people would also be thrown into hell, which was made specifically for the fallen angels, devil and his angels. Matthew 25 verse 41 says that the everlasting fire, hell, was prepared for the devil and his angels. Hell was created as the greatest final punishment for the leader and members of the Great Rebellion. Revelations 12:7-9 and verse 12. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. The Great Rebellion, also called the Heavenly War, was an event that occurred in heaven, which included Satan and 1/3 of the angelic host against God and his angels. While the specific numbers isn't known, Revelations 12 verse 4 makes it known that 1/3 of the angels followed Satan. This war was an attempt to overthrow God in the eternal sphere. It is believed that angels fell into sin before man. This belief is because of the presence of Satan in the Garden of Eden. All things God made are good. All angels were created holy. However, Peter said in 2 Peter 2 verse 4 that the angels sinned, meaning that they were beings who had the freedom of choice and were held responsible for that choice. The desire of Satan and his angels are to be honored in the manner that God is to replace them. After Satan and his angels had rebelled, there was found no space for them in heaven anymore. They were cast down. Therefore, there was a change in their abode, and therefore the term fallen, a big consequence of the Great Rebellion, was that they were cast down into hell and are bound in chains of darkness. For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness, to be reserved for 2 Peter 2 verse 4, according to Peter, the angels who sinned are in hell waiting eternal judgment. Satan, the leader who rebelled, still reappears before the angels in heaven, despite being cast down into hell. This therefore makes the question pop up: if he is in hell, how can he reappear? It's found in Job 1 verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And Job 2 verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. The sons of God in this context are angels. If Satan is presently bound in hell, how come he appears in heaven? This brings to the second record given to us in the Bible, which says that immediately Satan and his angels had sinned, there was found no space for them in heaven anymore. So Satan and his angels were cast down into the earth, and the great dragon was cast out, and his angels were cast out with him. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down unto you. It says that they were cast into hell in 2 Peter, while in Revelations they were cast into the earth. Since we know that hell was made for the devil and his angels, maybe it's to indicate that fallen angels were fallen into the earth, and some ended up being locked up in hell, with the final judgment being that all of them will be locked up in hell. When fallen angels stayed on earth, they had sexual relations with the daughters of men. Genesis 6, verse 1 to 2 and verse 4. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all, which they chose. For there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. The scripture is commonly believed to be that sons of God were angels who were on earth, fallen angels, and that had sex with daughters of men, and so their offsprings were mixed breed, known as giants, the men of renown. These beings were great in size, height, and so they were referred to as mighty men in Genesis 6 verse 4. One quotation from an apocryphal book reads, Book of Enoch 6 verse 1. And it came to pass, when the sons of men had increased, and in those days there were born to them fair and beautiful daughters, and the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them, and they said to one another, Come, let us choose for ourselves wives from the children of men, and let us beget for ourselves children. And they took wives for themselves, and they began to go into them, and were promiscuous with them. A passage in Baruch's Apocalypse deals with an incident similar to the above, for they, the angels on the other hand, possessed freedom in that time in which it was created, and some of them descended and mingled with women, and they who acted then like this were tormented in chains. But the rest of the multitude of angels, who have no number, restrained themselves, and those dwelling on earth perished together through the waters of the flood. From this we see another big consequence that came upon the fallen angels. They perished in the floods. The floods were described in Genesis. At the end of the world, when Jesus comes again to the earth, he will judge all things, will throw Satan and his angels into an unending continuous pain and punishment in the lake of fire. Revelations 20 verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. In the Testament of Moses, chapter 10 verse 1, then Satan will have an end, and sorrow will be led away with him, was recorded. However, this isn't expressed anywhere in the Bible. The Apocrypha, specifically the book of 1st Enoch, contained a lot of expressions of the ends of Satan and his angels. In the New Testament, Satan and his angels' end is attributed to the everlasting fire prepared for him, his knowledge that his time is limited, and lastly his destruction by Christ, which is recorded in Hebrews 2 verse 14. The most expansive of the account of the angel's end is found in Revelations 20, 1-3 and verse 10. There's the account of Satan being bound, and it's recorded in Revelations 20 verse 1-3. And the angel laid hold on that dragon and the old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. It occurs in 2 stages. First, he is bound, and then he is incarcerated. Then he is destroyed. After being released for a short while, Satan, being bound, has an interesting effect, because it was him who usually bound people. In Luke 13, the woman Jesus healed was said to have a spirit of infirmity, and she was bound by Satan. Luke 13 verse 12. And when Jesus saw her, he called her to him, and said unto her, Woman, thou art loosed from thy infirmity. 13. And ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan had bound, lo, these 18 years, be loosed from this bond on Sabbath day? Satan was expelled from heaven according to Revelations in 3 stages. He and his angels were cast out from heaven to earth when he lost the war in the battle against God and his angels. In Luke 10 verse 18, Jesus said, I saw Satan fall with lightning speed from heaven. This probably described the first stage of Satan being expelled. The second stage is when Satan is cast from earth into the abyss. Revelations 20 verse 1-3. The third expulsion occurred when he was cast into the lake of fire. Revelations 20 verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Satan was lastly expelled into the lake of fire as a consequence of the heavenly war he waged. This is suggested in Revelation 20 verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever.